What's up, Tigerback? It's your boy, Black Tiger Talks, and I'm here to talk about the NFL draft, more specifically, my reaction to it and all. And we're a day removed now from the NFL draft, and I wanted to do that because I wanted to give myself a chance to let the emotions of the moment die down and, start to look at it more through an analytical point of view, looking at it more objectively. If you've been, following me on Twitter, you know that I wasn't exactly thrilled with our draft so far, and I was even less thrilled as the draft went on. That said, now again, letting the emotions go and looking at it analytically over the course of a couple of hours, 24 hours now, I can confidently say I'm still not thrilled with our draft class at all. That said, there is some good parts about it. But of course, how do you even analyze the draft in the first place? Well, the main way to analyze the draft, in my personal opinion, is very simple. You got to look at what your team needed, right? Look at what your team needed, and then go by what they drafted. And then finally, after you look at your team needs and the team draft, you look at who was available at the time who could have better fit that need. Because sometimes you get a player who's not necessarily the best player at that position, or even the best player at that position for what we needed at the time. These needs go beyond the position alone and become more of a situation of type of player and player strengths and all that as well. So again, going over the NFL draft and going over which guys I actually really liked and which draft picks I really didn't like, I think you probably understand. I want to make sure you understand at least what I'm coming from, where I'm coming from, and why I think certain picks weren't that great and certain picks were that great, And of course, starting first with Cam Ward. Cam Ward is a very good pick, all things considered, He's the top guy on most people's draft boards and the top guy on my draft board as well. I think he's a really good player, and I think he has a lot of good abilities that he can use to become a great player in the NFL. I don't like his potential as far as when it compares to the top tier talent in the NFL, but again, he has a lot of talent, and it's still good enough to definitely win a Super Bowl with the right type of guys around him. So I'm not too angry with the Cam Ward pick, especially when you hear that apparently the Giants were looking to trade up to get him first. You had to say to yourself, do I really want the Giants to go get him and not ourselves? So I understand, obviously, why we decided to stay put, not trade back, and grab, our guy. And again, he's a hot, new young quarterback with all these abilities, with all this talent. It's going to be very interesting to see how well he plays for the season. It's going to be a big time boost to our fan base and the excitement that we're going to feel when the preseason rolls around, when, the season starts, all that. So ultimately speaking, I'm actually quite happy with that pick. I'm not too angry with that pick whatsoever. But it's when we get to the next two picks that I started to get a little bit more unhappy with the way we were going with it. And of course, that unfortunately started with our, second round pick, which is this edge rusher from UCLA. His name's a long African name. It's a little bit hard to pronounce. I'm not going to try to pronounce it and butcher the name. And again, nothing against him specifically, but at the same time, I look at what type of player he is, what we needed. So again, to go over first of all what we needed, I probably shouldn't went over that first, but let me go over it now. What we needed for the team at this moment, we needed a quarterback, we needed a receiver, we needed an edge. Those were the top three needs. Then we had a bunch of things that we could, do without, but would still be helpful. We needed some depth on the line. We needed maybe a tight end. These are things that could help us out, so we could have help at the tight end line, offensive line, some help at running back, some help at other positions on defense, like, defense, middle of the defense, linebackers, safeties, corners. All these things could use some help, but they weren't, glaring needs the same way a quarterback, receiver, and edge were. So again, if you look at it from this perspective, you see that, well, we got our quarterback, now we got an edge. Isn't that great? Yes and no, because the edge we got, from this guy from UCLA, looking at his way he played, looking at the tape and everything, you see that he's really good player. But the problem that he has is that he was a linebacker first and foremost, and then he switched to be an edge. And as such, he's very raw coming off the edge and actually, rushing the passer. He's actually very good at stopping the run. But when it comes to stopping, or at least rushing the passer, you don't really see a whole lot of ability there yet. Of course, he's very raw. He could get better at it, but that you don't see that yet. And the reason why that's a problem for the Titans is very simple, because edge problems were not a big thing for us when it came to stopping the run. We weren't a team that was getting run on all year last year. We had a bigger problem with actually getting to the passer when, you know, the ball is snapped when they start passing. That was the big problem we had. And we got rid of Harold Landry, and I was hoping we were going to get a big-time edge rusher who could really just, you know, destroy people and get to the quarterback in like 3 to 2 seconds. And we didn't do that. We got a guy who is a great run stopper to start out with, and maybe can grow into being a big-time pass rusher. This isn't a great pick, so I'm doing grades like for Cam Ward, you give him a grade of, you know, an A- or a B+. For this pick, I'm gonna have to give it a B- because we needed a different type. This is a position of need, but we needed a different type of player, and there were other players that were available that would have been better for us at that time. Although I won't go too deep into that for this specific pick, because ultimately speaking, this is not a pick that I really hated too much. It is the next pick with Kevin Winston Jr. and, you know, the pick from Penn State, the safety in the 3rd round. That was a pick that kind of really got me angry because, as I said before, safety wasn't a big time pick for us. We didn't need a safety as much as we needed, you know, a receiver. Now, the reason why we needed a receiver more is because receiver was a position of need for many years now. It's been a big problem for the Titans for so many years now. And our receiving core at this point was completely gutted, completely destroyed. Our top 2 guys from last year were guys like, you know, DeAndre Hopkins and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, and both of those guys left in free agency. Calvin Ridley's all by himself. I don't believe he's a big-time receiver in of himself, you know, a top 10 receiver by himself, let alone, you know, all by himself back there with nothing more than Van Jefferson and Treylon Burks to back him up. And again, I don't want to jump on Treylon Burks too much. He's been injured a lot, but again, we need you to perform. That's the way of the game. So we really didn't have any receivers back there when you really look at it. So for us to pass on the receiver and go for Kevin Winston Jr., it really hurt. It really did hurt. But again, he's definitely a good player. He's definitely a super good tackler from what I've seen. And I think he's actually going to be a good help for us in the future. So I'm going to have to give this pick a C+. Again, but as you can tell, I'm kind of getting a little bit less happy with each pick as it goes along. And then in the 4th round, top of the 4th round, we did get our receiver, and, you know, I think his name was Chimere DK. And the problem with it, again, is like we did get a receiver, but just like the 2nd round edge rusher pick, we got the wrong type of receiver. You know, this guy is a very raw but very fast receiver. He runs like a 4.34, very fast. I think he jumped like a 38 vertical, you know, extremely fast, extremely athletic. But he has no route running ability right now. He's only 6'1", 200 pounds, so he's not like a really big receiver at all. So you look at this receiver, he's not a big receiver. He has speed, but doesn't seem to know how to use it yet. Doesn't have a route running ability. And you look at him, he's basically a special teams guy, and a guy who could be, you know, trained over time to get better at, you know, route running and other things like that. He's not a here now, play now guy. And you get them at the top of the 4th round, and it looks terrible. And honestly, it was a terrible pick at that position. Had we got him later after getting another receiver, I would be much more happy with that pick. But at that time, it was just terrible, especially when there was someone very similar to him like Dante Thornton from Tennessee, who was a 6'5" guy who ran a 4.3. So he's bigger, he's faster, and has more ability to be an X receiver with better route running. And you look at that and you say, why not get him instead of getting this guy who's smaller, slower, and has less route running ability? But hey, that's how the cookie crumbles. That's what we decided to do. And all I can give this pick is a C- at best. Honestly, you might want to give it a D+ because it's just such a lackluster pick for that position. And then, of course, in the 4th round, we kept going on, and we grabbed, you know, Gunnar Helm, the Texas tight end. And again, situation like we just said before, it's nothing against Gunnar Helm himself, but, you know, he, as well as because of tight end as he is, we didn't need that anywhere near as much as we needed a receiver. Again, our receiving core is completely trash at this moment. We need more receivers. At tight end, we still got Chig Okonkwo. We still got Josh Wiley. We still have guys at tight end. This guy's going to be the 3rd tight end, potentially going up to be the 2nd tight end. It just doesn't make sense to do that when you need a receiver much more. So again, I wasn't happy with that pick either. Nothing against Gunnar Helm himself, just about what we needed at that time. Wasn't happy with it. So again, that's a pick that I'm gonna have to give another C- to, even though it's not Gunnar Helm's fault. And then finally, in the fourth round, we finally got our big receiver with his Erlich Ayanamor, I think his name is. It's hard to pronounce, but he actually is a receiver that is exactly what we wanted. He's 6'2", 206, ran like a 4.4, and he dominated Travis Hunter in their game against each other a couple of years ago. He's a big time receiver altogether. He actually has the potential to be an X receiver. Big, strong, athletic, fast, pretty good route running, pretty good releases, all that stuff. It's actually really surprising that he fell to the fourth round, but hey, we got him. I'm happy with it. Honestly, as a pick in the fourth round to get your receiver X in a position of that we needed, you have to give this pick like an A to it, possibly even an A+ pick. This is a great pick at that position. If you look at the other guys that were available, he was the best man on the board. You had to do it. Happy with the pick. But then we come up and we get a guard from Sacramento, Jackson Slater, and he's not a bad pick either. At this point in time, we kind of filled up all our holes in the offense. We filled up all the needs. We are just getting depth pick. So he's a good depth pick. I've heard that he's really good. I've looked at his film. He looked pretty solid. It's a good guy to get in the fifth round altogether. Then our 2 6th-round picks, running back Khalil Mullins from Michigan and California corner Marcus Harris, both pretty good depth picks. Khalil Mullins is actually probably going to be a big-time guy in the red zone for us if we really decide to use him like that. 6'1", 230. He seems like he runs with a vengeance. Like he keeps on driving piles forward. It's good to see. So I'm actually kind of excited for him. And then of course for the corner, Marcus Harris, haven't seen too much of him. I started looking as much as I could, but didn't see a whole lot that was super impressive. But again, you're getting depth picks at 6th round anyway. So altogether, you look at the entire draft, I'd have to give our draft class a B, just a solid B. That's nothing more, nothing less, because while we did fill certain holes, let's be honest, we got pretty lucky with having that Stanford receiver. I just mentioned him before, Eric Ayanamor, I think, to have him fall to the 5th round and have us pick him up after passing on him so many times, that is a bit of luck, to be honest with me. And I just look at that and I say, we could have went so much worse. At the same time, we got to focus on what we did do right. And when we look at what we did do right, we filled up a lot of the holes. So B is the level of the draft class I think we got. I'm excited to see them all play when it comes to season, and ultimately speaking, I'm not too unhappy with what I saw from those guys. We have not a super exciting draft class, but a fairly exciting draft class, and I can't wait to see what undrafted free agents we start picking up. Some of them are being named, Xavier Restrepo, guy from Miami with Cam Ward. That's cool to see. So I'm kind of excited to see what keeps going on. I hope we can do better again. I want to be more clear about why I'm so big on receiver again. Besides the fact that, again, we had no receivers, on top of that, you also got to remember that we were having a rookie quarterback behind a new line that's coming together. And when you have a line that's coming together that has not played with each other before, they're going to have a lack of chemistry. They're going to let sacks go through. And then you have a rookie quarterback who you don't want to get hurt, who doesn't want to get hit, who's going to be hard at sensing some of the pressure, adjusting to the speed of the NFL. All those things. You need receivers out there that can really bail him out of situations. And we didn't have that at the moment, and right now we have a chance at having that at the very least, which is better than what we were at. So I think we ultimately improved in this draft, and I'm happy to see it. That said, there were some worrying signs in there. There were some things I didn't like, but again, I'm happy that we at least made it out of there with some receivers. So anyway, that's the video. Like and subscribe for further content, and I guess I'll see you guys in another video.